This is a bit of a different video format for me on my channel because I've gotten a lot of questions in the past about what to do as a starting content creator, mainly on YouTube. I can't speak as much to something like Twitch, although I've used it before. This is really just for new creators on YouTube and how I think, you are best served by yourself. I have Alex here today from Podcast Now, who I appreciate being here. He's going to help me hit this as well. He has been a very consistent content creator for quite a while. He does a lot of different stuff over on his channel, a wide variety of content in just about everything. We do appreciate having you here. You're a good friend of mine, so thank you for joining me today to actually talk about this.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And I think this is honestly, not to like self-serve us, but I really do think from what you and I have been through for several years on this platform, this beautiful place we call YouTube, I really do think we put together a really nice list for anybody watching.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that we'll get into a lot of specifics here. And before we jump into it, I do really quickly want to say a big thank you to some of my best patrons over on Patreon who are helping me out a lot. Caleb, Steve, Jonah, Erwin, Brohan, Nathaniel, and Dylan. I appreciate all of you. If you guys are more interested in the Patreon and want to check that out, the link is in the description down below. But I just wanted to shout these guys out because I appreciate them so much. So let's hop right into the list.
Number 5.
So the first one we have is networking. Now, this is something I think people talk about in business, and they'll always say like, well, you should network, but they'll never get into specifics of what they mean. It's just a buzzword in business and in anything. What we have on here are some specific examples, actually, of what we think people should be doing when they're getting into YouTube. One of those things, by the way, is not commenting under other people's videos, begging for views and likes. Generally, you'll get the wrong kind of attention for that. You will either get brigaded by people who really don't like you for doing that, or you'll just get straight up ignored and marked as spam. And if you're marked as spam too many times, that's not really a great look for your channel either. So I would say that you want to do positive things to network, like meeting other people who actually make things on YouTube and on other different social media sites. Social media is a huge tool to actually use to draw attention to your work and meet other people.
No, yeah, I think that's exactly right. I guess for me personally, I really, besides you, right, I never really did many collaborations with anybody. So I kind of did the opposite of this one. But it really, honestly, guys, as you get bigger, even if you're starting, you have 1, 2, 5, 10 subscribers, it is good to just know that you have somebody else out there. If you're a teenager, you're in school or whatever, maybe one of your friends has YouTube. And it's just, I think, a really good thing just to either bounce ideas off of each other or just the fact that you have somebody out there, especially if it becomes a real thing like it is for Jay and I. I mean, we bounce like real, I guess, world problems in terms of YouTube. We bounce that off each other every day. And I think it really does help. And then, yeah, the social media stuff, I mean, you'll hear Twitch people do it a lot. Twitch people will tell you all the time. It's the exact same thing for YouTube. YouTube's a little bit easier if you only have a YouTube, but generally you don't want to, especially with how awful YouTube is as a platform in general. Not to, I guess, slight it too bad, but, like a way of getting in contact with them, best way is Twitter. Best way is Twitter. You're not going to get them through YouTube, which is actually kind of a joke when you think about it. It's their own website, but Twitter, very important to have. I always loved going on Twitter. I never actually was active at all with my own personal or my Podcast Now account on Twitter up until this past May. And I'm so happy that I am because I love the community there. And again, like if I ever run into problems with YouTube, I've actually gotten their attention, their YouTube support on Twitter, I think 2 or 3 other times. So very, very important. And again, just and like we've talked about with Jay, just connecting with other people, whether it's collaborations or again, just talking to them in general. Those are, I think, very, very key things. Networking is kind of, when you say that, like Jay said, like it sounds very like business like, not too many examples, but I think these are exactly the things that you need to be doing.
Number 4.
The second thing that we do have is that you should make what you want. Now, this is a bit of a balancing act, but the thing is, yes, you do want people to watch your videos, but if you're not interested in it, 1, people can tell, and 2, even if they can't tell, you can tell. Nobody wants to go to a dead-end job that they work every day, sitting in. Some people, by the way, love the cubicle lifestyle, but I'm just saying, people who are just there to sit at an office job because it's safe, has job security, they think, and they can go home at the end of the day and they don't care, all the way through. Nobody wants to watch a content creator like that. Nobody. If people can tell that you don't care about what you're talking about, they're gone. Because This website is filled with people who are passionate about what they want to talk about. And yes, do a lot of those people make money? Absolutely. Varying amounts, but they do. But they're not doing it just for that. It is an incentive that allows them to make their content because even like me, if I had to go and get another job and now instead of 60 hours a week, I'm working 85 hours a week, yeah, you'd see a lot less videos, right? But you should not be doing it just for that. I think that's like a very clear-cut thing. And you also shouldn't be doing it just to bait in a certain community to feed off of them for views. You should be making the things that are exciting to you, that are interesting to you, that you like. That's why, you know, I've told Alex this. It would be very easy for either of us to cash in on one or two topics. For you, Alex, it might be, Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, let's say you just stopped caring and you just want to talk about only that. For me, it might be Batman. But at the end of the day, it's like if you're talking about it and you don't care, it doesn't matter to anybody. And it's not something you can be proud of, which I think is the biggest problem. It's why I backed off pretty heavily from Batman, because I was getting very burnt out on it. And I was like, okay, well, it's not worth the extra money to not like what I'm doing. So I just make it now when I want to. And I think that's one of the biggest things that you have to do with this platform.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I watch a lot of YouTube people that talk about, you know, how YouTube works and stuff. And one of the biggest things everybody says is the variety channel thing is a terrible idea and don't do it. And, does it discourage me a little bit? But at the same time, and I tell Jay this is how we started talking, right? Is that, I'm going to make it work. And, it's going to take a lot of work and it's going to be rough. And like Jay said, I mean, we've said it numerous times. If we wanted to get big, we would get big. And that's not like a gloating thing, because we've seen people that jump into certain mediums. And here's the thing: if you're into that, that's fine. So like me, like Jay said, I talk about certain movies a lot more than others. I talk about certain games sometimes more. Like Scream. If you love the movie Scream, the franchise Scream, and you're like, I want to make a channel for it, you actually may become very, very successful. But what you don't want to do is say, well, I need to make a YouTube channel. What should I make it on? And then you go online and you find something, and you're like, oh yeah, that would probably work. I can do it like that. That's a terrible way of doing it. Like Jay said, you got to make it for you. There's things you can, because you're always going to get people that say, the best microphones on the market or the best cameras. I mean, you can have all that, and yeah, your voices can sound better and stuff like that. But ultimately, like Jay said, if the person you're watching or listening to isn't invested, you're going to tell. You're absolutely going to tell. And so they can look as good as they want. They can sound. Now, I guess sound is very important. It's something that eventually you need to invest in. But early on, as long as you're actually passionate and invested in it could be baking, it could be sewing, it could be trampoline videos, it could be literally anything. If you're invested, you will find people that connect with you. That's literally how it works, because nobody's going to subscribe, nobody's going to like, nobody's going to share your video if they feel like, oh yeah, I don't connect with them at all. Like, they're talking about something that I care about, but they don't seem like they enjoy it. In fact, they don't even seem like they're a fan, or whatever the situation may be. I'm not going to do anything there. So you need to make sure that you're passionate about whatever the heck you're talking about.
Number 3.
So moving into our third one as well, this is one that's a little bit controversial, I will say. This is on likes and dislikes and just community feedback in general. Now, hear me out on this. Likes and dislikes don't actually matter, but they do. And what I mean by that is that you should take people's criticism into consideration, right? Now, if someone's just being a dick to be one, obviously that's an outlier. You don't really need to deal with that anywhere. You just don't have to. You don't have to take it into account. You don't have to care. Don't give that person the time of day. They're not worth your time. But if it's just like, hey, I disagree with what you did here, blah, 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 and it's a real thing, you need to take that into consideration, because those people actually can actively help improve your content a lot, beyond just you from the outside, from the inside. Getting an outside perspective can really actually help you out. And another thing too is that you do need to try and get that engagement, whether it's likes or dislikes. Why do you think Rebecca Black's Friday did so well? Do you think it's because it has an overwhelming amount of likes? It's not. It's really highly disliked. Justin Bieber's Baby. Why do you think that video did so well? Is it because it was loved? No, well, it wasn't. I even saw a little experiment on this from Mr. Beast actually a while back, where he did a video uploading a new video and showing how actually in the search algorithm, you are more likely to end up recommended to people through search higher up because you have 1 dislike and 0 likes than you are if you have 0 likes and 0 dislikes. That's still engagement. You don't want to not encourage people to engage just because you're afraid of what they'll say.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough slope because, like you said, well, number one, I'm not saying people are weak, but obviously if people are constantly going after you or whatever in comments and in dislikes, you see that stuff, that negativity adds up. That doesn't make you weaker than anybody. That doesn't make you, anything, anything bad, but that can happen. And again, there is sometimes things to be learned. I mean, if a video gets absolutely destroyed in terms of dislikes or just has negative comments, I would say, like Jay said, I would say it kind of depends on what kind of negative feedback, right? Because like Jay said, there's people that will come after you for no reason, right? There's always going to be like, for me, I know I talk fast. I know I don't shut up. I know all these kind of stuff. I know that my voice sounds like I'm 10, but I'm not really. I'm actually much older.
He's 11.
People will say that. It's like, those are things that I laugh at and I say, yeah, I mean, people tell me that every day. Like, it's funny, but I just don't care. But if people have actual things, they say, well, because I do a lot of news videos, so maybe I missed something in the news, or maybe I just kind of, I don't know, my approach to it was different and maybe a way that it wasn't very popular. So there's things that you can learn. There's absolutely things that you can learn, and those are the things that you take, right? The improvements that you can actually, or again, like even like I said earlier, like the audio stuff. Like if people do it, if people say like your audio is awful, stuff like that, I mean, I guess that's fair, you know what I mean? But there's things that there's give and take. If people don't like you because of you, well, then they're not going to stick around. They're not going to be the ones that actually follow you. Like Jay said, like you stick with this stuff, and like we've both been saying, you stick with this stuff, you're going to get people that relate to you and people that actually do care. And those are the people that you want to stick around. So yeah, I mean, likes are good to see. Dislikes, like Jay said, I mean, they're just as good for engagement. I love seeing them. Comments, obviously, and they're things that I think you take and you learn from, and there's things that you just flat out avoid.
Yeah, and I would say don't take it personally, especially in things like we do. I mean, Alex, in your podcast, your podcast now, in your streams, you do those with your wife, and obviously it's like the more you include people that you love in stuff, it's like the more openings there are for people to try and take personal pot shots at you. It's like when I've talked about things like on the Johnny Depp video with abuse and stuff like that. It's like you open yourself up to these people who will try and antagonize you and stuff. And look, here's the thing. There's going to be times where it works, where they just piss you off. There's multiple ways to go about it. I'm not telling you what to do. If someone's just absolutely egregious, you certainly can shadow ban them or make them not show up or whatever you want to do, or report it to YouTube or whatever. That is up to you on your channel. But at the end of the day, no matter how you choose to handle those things, just don't give people who are trying to antagonize you personally a platform to do so. It's not worth it. They should not live rent-free in your head. You obviously are in theirs, that they even feel the need to be like that. So take that into account and let it go, as Elsa, one of the hottest Disney characters, would say. Alex, do you have anything to add to that?
Nothing.
Absolutely nothing after the Elsa comment?
Yeah, 0.
Number 2.
So, hey, moving on from that, we do have another one. This was Alex's point that I think he brought up. That is, be consistent. This is a great one. Now, this will depend on your video style. Alex uploads multiple videos every day, and I'm not saying that as a negative or a positive. That is just the style of his channel. I don't do that. I upload about 1 video a day here and 1 video a day on my secondary Let's Play channel, and that's just my strategy. And there's usually 1 day a week on my Let's Play channel where I will stream, and then there's a couple days a week on this channel where I'll say, hey, we're taking the day off. Usually it's like Wednesdays and Sundays, sometimes Fridays. I'm like, hey, there's not enough for me to talk about today. I'm not feeling it. You don't want me cashing in just to talk. I'm not going to make something I'm not proud of. Here you go. And Alex is like out here like, boom, I got all these things I want to talk about that I'm proud of, and he's hitting them out. We are both consistent with what we do, just in different ways. And I think that's important because your audience needs to sort of know what you're going to be doing. And also, if you're not consistent at all, YouTube will be like, this infrequent user is not worth our time. We're not going to recommend them, because it's all programs doing this. So if you are just showing up twice a year, YouTube's not going to recommend you to anybody.
Yep, no, that's perfectly said. I mean, you can look at it if you want to go. These are none of these, I would say, are very like super in depth. We're not giving you any like algorithm secrets or anything like that. But you can look at it from the algorithm point of view, and you can also look at it, like Jay said, like from just a personal point of view. If people know what to expect from you, they're more, they may not show up, but they may be more willing to show up, right? People know on my channel to expect just a brigade of videos every single day, right? And if I didn't do that, if I stopped now, I've kind of, gotten myself in a tough situation, because can I ever not do this? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I'm actually a little afraid to test it out. And even when I want to test it out, I actually don't end up doing it. But, people have come to expect that. And like Jay said, I mean, there's no right or wrong way to do it. That's actually, this one, unlike some of the other ones, this one is a very, very open, because even just these two examples, I do 3 or 4 videos a day on my channel. Jay does 1, and he takes a couple days off. But both of us are, I'd say we're doing both pretty darn good. So it's really, there's some people out there. There's a girl, Sophia. I don't know what her last name is, but she's a very, very popular. She does like experiments. I'm sure you guys have heard of her. She does a video about once a month, maybe once every 3-ish weeks. She gets like 8 million views. Now, obviously, she's a really huge channel, but there's channels that do it weekly. There's channels that do it bi-weekly. There's channels that do once a month. Just be consistent, right? Just make sure that YouTube, now again, more in that algorithm point of view, YouTube needs to know what the heck you're doing. If YouTube doesn't understand it, good luck. And then also you're doing it on a personal level. So people that are watching your channel, they know. I find it funny when people come on my channel and say like, hey, you do too much, or you should really only do like 1 video a day, or 1 video a day is enough. It's like, yeah, it probably is, but you're going to have to come to accept it, because that's just the way kind of the system is. That's how my system is. I love doing it. Without it. And another thing, too, is like, and Jay and I have talked about this nonstop, it wouldn't work to do the opposite. I am too passionate, and I talk too much about all these different things. If I did a video a day, I'd be losing, like, I mean, how many would that be? That would be like 15-ish videos a week I'd be missing out on. And that's a lot of topics that I normally would cover that people would even maybe expect of me that I wouldn't. And then the same way, Jay, if you did 3 videos a day, people would be like, holy Jesus, it's such a wild change. So people will come to, and that's the great thing, honestly, about this point, is it's on you. It's your choice to do whatever. Again, if you're in school, stuff like that, maybe you do a video every Saturday, Sunday, and that's it. And that's fine, because people know every Saturday and Sunday, I go to Blank's channel and there'll be a video there. And that's a perfect way of doing it, honestly. So as long as you have your own system, everything else will work out.
Number one. It's number one. Number one.
I have a very hard time with this, because your expectations are going to be all over the place, especially with YouTube. It is such a weird platform, and here's what I mean by that. Now, I don't know when this is coming out. This is probably coming out a week after the week I'm talking about. But your
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Your views can range all over the place. Like, I can talk about Star Wars one time and get 30,000 views. I can talk about something more interesting about Star Wars in our time and get 9,000. It's something where it's hard, because you are at the mercy a little bit of what YouTube recommends to people, what they want to show, even your subscribers, because it's not the old system where your subs see everything. It just isn't. Your subs will not see a lot of what you put up, and that's very discouraging. We're almost at a point where you have to break through by sheer force, like PewDiePie, where it's like, I have 100 million people follow me, and by the way, even if 1% of those watch it, that's massive. That's very hard to do when you're small, because you just don't have the sheer numbers behind that. And being able to manage those expectations without taking it as a personal slight, I guess, it's actually more difficult than it sounds, I think, to not be like, what did I do wrong? Why don't people like me? Why don't people like this thing I made? Those might sound like pathetic or silly things to think, but you'd be surprised how quickly those thoughts can come up when you're like, why am I failing? If it feels like you are.
Yeah, no, it's this one honestly is the toughest, and it goes by personal, what your own personal situation is. Because if you're in, again, I keep going back to the school thing. If you're in school, you're doing it for fun, maybe you don't care. If you're doing it because you really want to hit the ground and you just want to run, right? You want a big channel. I mean, that's tough. It's really, really tough. And, people always say, like, your first video is going to get like 3 views. Like, it's going to do pathetic. And then your next video is probably going to do just as pathetic. And, you even have people out there that say that there is is to YouTube maybe even kind of a magic number that YouTube kind of needs to push your stuff. That's not even true. You can do 40, 50, 60 videos. They can all continue to do bad. But the biggest thing that this is, honestly, I would say this is paired with the consistency, because and I've told Jay this multiple times, and this is kind of the reason why we're still here. The biggest thing with both of these, consistency and managing your expectations, is you just got to keep going. Hundreds of thousands and even millions of people, do YouTube every single day, or there's new accounts being made every single day, and the 99.999% of them drop off, or they don't reach 1,000, or they don't reach 10,000 subscribers, and it's because you're going to get hit with just not good results early on, and then you quit. And that is what the overwhelming majority of people do. And it sucks. And I understand it. I completely understand it. And I'm not saying like we're more passionate or whatever, because everybody's in their own situation. But that really is what you got to do. You have to keep going. And the expectations thing, yeah, like Jay said, I mean, once you get down and dirty with YouTube, some videos do amazing, some don't. Some that you think will do good will actually do bad. Some that you think will do terrible will do good. That's all over the place. But I would say, if you're just starting, you're at 0 subscribers, or you subscribe to yourself, which everybody does. So you're at 1, or your other account subscribes to you. Now you have 1 or 2. That's the plan. You make your videos, you be yourself. And this kind of sums up everything, I would say. You do you make the videos you want to make, you do it on your own schedule, but you make it a schedule, and you just keep on going. You do not stop. And I would say this is the biggest one. Do not quit YouTube. It's the biggest key. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but it's actually the most important thing to actually succeed in here.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And that's something too that I've even had problems with, where I've thought in the past, like, what's the point? Like I should, it's like, it's not going where I want it to. I should just stop. But that's not a good, healthy mindset to have going into it. And it's not one that will ever find you success on the platform or in any platform. If you, I'm not a huge sports person, but I guess it's a good example. If you go out on the field your first time ever, and you're playing, I guess it's football, but soccer, and you miss the goal the first time, or it's blocked by the goalie, do you just say, well, I suck, I'm done? No, it's like you have to keep practicing. It's the same with any sport, basketball, baseball, football, hockey, any of them. It's the same with any skill, is you are going to not do well when you start. Hell, you might not do well 5 years in. It was actually over 5 years in when I even started getting any kind of viewership, believe it or not. And even now I actually struggle with it sometimes, just because sometimes my videos aren't shown to people. I just don't get impressions. Other times they're just shoved out there. I'll have like a day where the YouTube's like, let's recommend 5 of his videos to 100,000 people. I don't know why. It just happens, and it's something where you have to break through by sheer force eventually, but you're not going to if you quit. You're just not.
Yep. Yeah, you're not going to give yourself the chance is pretty much the thing.
Yeah. So anyway, these are our 5 things that we really do think that new or starting content creators, I mean, this could apply to pretty much any website, but specifically YouTube, should be doing or should know going into it. Alex, do you have anything else to close this off before we finish?
YouTube is a cruel, sick world, but no, in all honesty, it's an amazing place. It truly is an amazing place, and the kind of things you can do on this platform are actually, I know it's kind of like a pitch for YouTube. I mean, it really, it's so tough to get going, but I really do think, especially, again, not to gloat about the stuff that we talked about, but I really do think these are things that maybe are glanced over, they're like glossy to a lot of other people that may tell you this, but I think kind of straight up, these are the things you do need to know going into YouTube.
I absolutely agree with that. So, hey, thank you very much for being here, Alex. I really appreciated having you. I urge everyone to check out your channel, Podcast Now, also your secondary channel, Podcast Now Plus, extremely underrated. So, hey, thanks for being here today. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me, Jay. And, we take our own advice here. We're trying to do the things that we pitch to everybody at home, too. I think that's kind of important to bring up as well.
Yeah, that's what they don't know, is this was secretly just a therapy therapy bill that we got to write off. No, so let us know what you think in the comments down below. If you are a starting YouTuber or content creator, Was this important and special to you? I mean, I guess helpful would be a better word. What do you think? Are there any things that you think we missed? And what are your thoughts on all of this? Be sure to let us know in the comments down below. Please be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Obviously, a dislike if you dislike it. I take all feedback into account. And hey, I've been trying to grow my social medias, so this channel does have a secondary sister channel or son channel. I don't know what you want to call it. There's a nuclear family going on here where we do all kinds of Let's Plays and have fun hanging out. I hope you will check that out. That is Degenerate Plays in the description down below. And I also do have a lot of social medias, Twitter, Instagram. I have a Parler now as well. So those are all also in the description, and I hope to see you over there. Have a fantastic day. This one's a little longer than normal, but it's very important. Stay shui.